expecting for something to be there, you try to grab hold of it, and it escapes you. You're looking for satisfaction, and you can't fully find it. So there is absurdity in this world. But that's not all there is to this world. There's also good gifts that the Lord gives. And there's at least 7 passages where the preacher breaks in and he talks about that. We'll talk about it later this morning. Enjoying the good gifts of this world that God has created, that you can find some level of happiness and enjoyment and contentment even amidst this absurd world. And then there's life beyond life under the sun, that there is more than meets the eye. It's not just, this isn't the final word. Absurdity is not the final word. There is more to this vain life. But there's a God in heaven, and he is working, and beyond this life, we will spend eternity with him. So kind of these 3 statements kind of help encapsulate that. Nothing in this world will fully satisfy. So if you try to get all your happiness just in this world, you're going to come up short. But we can enjoy God's good gifts. There are good things in this world that he gives. So this correlates to ground floor. This is the 2nd floor. And then we will only ultimately be happy in Christ. And of course, Ecclesiastes isn't going to give us the full answer, because we're not going to get that until we get to the New Testament and get to Christ, that our ultimate happiness is going to be in Christ. So that's kind of his framework for understanding the book of Ecclesiastes and making sense of it. I think it's pretty helpful. And let's see. So let's talk a little bit about this word that he goes with, absurd. Some people have translated it enigma. I think in your ESV you're going to find it vanity. One of the translations we read last week, I think, had futility. So the word hevel, it's hard to translate, notoriously hard to translate. Literally, it means breath or wind or vapor. And then it kind of takes on these metaphorical meanings, right? That everything is fleeting. You see you walk out on a cold day, you breathe, your breath goes out there, and poof, it's gone, right? It's fleeting. It's dissatisfying. You try to reach out and grab onto it, and it's gone. Meaningless, futile, vanity, absurd. So, and he's going to argue absurd is a good translation, because fleeting doesn't necessarily fit everything that the preacher talks about in Ecclesiastes. Because at some point he's going to talk about, look, I've seen what happens under the sun, where the innocent get punished. The guilty go free, and that's absurd. That is part of the absurdity. It's not just that things fall apart, everything goes wrong. Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. That's true too, but it's also capturing like this concept of injustice that we experience in this world. So that's kind of why he goes with the word absurd, because that kind of helps capture everything. And I think it's good that the Bible doesn't stick its head in the sand and pretend that everything's okay, right? When we are struggling in this world, when we are suffering, it's nice to have the Bible recognize that yes, things are hard, things can be absurd. I mean, you just walk outside or you just read the news, and you're just like, we live in an absurd world, don't we? So, he uses the example like, the Peanuts cartoons. You've got Charlie Brown and Lucy. Part of absurdity is you reach out expecting something is there and it's not there. So Charlie Brown goes, he expects the football to be there, and Lucy pulls it away. So even that idea of, I'm chasing after something that I think will make me happy. I try to get it, and as soon as I arrive, it's not there. So maybe after I get this promotion, that'll make me happy. Or maybe after I get this or that or the other thing, maybe this vacation, maybe this, that, or the other thing. Maybe I can make a new friend. Whatever it is you think will make you happy, you get there, and what happens? It doesn't fully satisfy. So, absurdity. We live in an absurd world. So, like we did last week, we're going to break into groups again. So why don't you go ahead and take time now. We're going to talk about the absurdity of life for a little bit. So why don't you just get in small groups together, and you can run through the questions on your handout. If you don't have a handout, there should be more back there on the stand. But your questions are, what are some ways we experience life's absurdity on a daily basis? What is the value of realizing and accepting that life is absurd? And then how did Christ experience firsthand the absurdity of life under the sun? So why don't you take time now, break into some groups, and discuss those questions for a few minutes. You guys can take about one more minute to wrap up your thoughts. All right, let's come back together as a group. Just for sake of time, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts, but we're going to run out of time, so I'll just share a couple of the thoughts that I had. So, on the second question, what's the value of realizing and accepting that life is absurd? Well, some of it is it's better to be disillusioned about the false paths to happiness now, so that we can find, as his subtitle says, the resilient path to lasting happiness, resilient happiness. So if we can just go ahead and realize, okay, nothing in this world will fully satisfy me, we're going to actually look where we ought to, which is ultimately to God, but also just understanding how to enjoy the good gifts that God has given us. But ultimate fulfillment in Christ. He's the one who redeemed us by shedding his blood, and we'll be with him fully satisfied in paradise when we cross over from this life to the next. On the question, how did Christ experience firsthand the absurdity of life under the sun? I'm just going to read just a little bit of how Jameson describes it. So he says, "This world has been subjected to futility against its will as God's judgment on us for our sin." So God cursed the world, right? Genesis 3. We're living under the curse. In his death, Jesus endured the full measure of that judgment for all who will turn from sin and trust in him. Jesus suffered the most extreme absurdity and alienation, which we deserve, culminating in personally suffering God's wrath on the cross, so that we would receive the wholeness and fullness that only he deserves. So you even just think of the betrayal, the mock trial that Jesus goes through. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, they're just railroading him through the legal system just to get him crucified. Just you think of that absurdity. The perfect one, the innocent one, is hated and is crucified, right? In his death, Jesus became this world's futility and its absurdity. He became the waste of the world, and so broke the circuit that continually turns the world into a wasteland. All right, another idea that comes up is this idea of gain. And I kind of wanted to introduce this idea because I think it helps set us up for talking about the world as a gift. And so you'll see this word pop up a couple times, and you can see on your handout. So Kohelet, the preacher, likely takes his Hebrew word for gain, I don't know how to say that in Hebrew, yitron, I don't know, from the world of commerce. The term marks profit. It is what one carries away from a deal, or what one has left when accounts are settled and the books are closed. So he's kind of thinking, he's like, vanity of vanity, like what is there to gain? When it's all said and done, what do I actually walk away with? What do I actually attain? He's trying to grasp after something. He's trying to get something, and he just comes up empty, right? He can't gain it. He can't hold on to it and keep it and actually come up with something substantial that's going to last. Okay, and we kind of already talked about this, but this really bleeds into the part about the absurdity of this world. You can read on your handout. Satisfaction is a retreating horizon. As soon as you get there, it isn't there. But you learn with relief it's just over the next ridge, the last day of school, summer, winning the division, finally a date, admission and just enough financial aid, the right major, graduation, the job you hoped for, the apartment at the upper limit of your salary, engagement, the date set. Did any of these satisfy? What about the next one? So you just think, if I can achieve this, if I can get this goal, then I'll be happy. I'm not going to be happy now, but if I can get that thing, then I'll be happy. And it just is a continuous cycle, right? Well, that kind of, so our first question is going to be, happiness is not striving for gain from life, but receiving life as a gift. So we really don't have a lot of time. Let me just read Ecclesiastes. Actually, how about somebody read Ecclesiastes 2, 24 through 26. If somebody wants to find that, you can read it out loud. Uh, 24 through 26. Thank you. So he's talking about eating and drinking and finding enjoyment in your toil. And what does he say? This is from the hand of God, right? It's a gift. God stretches out his hand, and it's a gift. So God is the giver. He gives us the rich things to enjoy. In chapter 3, verses 12 through 13, he said, I perceive that there's nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. So thinking of God as the giver and receiving things as a gift, that is actually a lot different than striving after gain. I'll let you guys kind of try to parse it out how you think it's different. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Why don't you break into small groups and go through these last questions together? See what you guys come up with. All right. I'm sure you didn't get through all the questions, but go ahead and just take a few more seconds to wrap up whatever thought you're on, and then we'll come back together. All right. I'd like to hear from some of you guys now. What are some things you talked about? How about the first one? What are some differences between striving for gain from life and receiving life as a gift from God? What do you guys think? That's great. So striving indicates our effort, and receiving is grace, right? So it's taking the focus off of us and putting it back on God. Yeah, that's great. Receiving versus grasping. Good. What else?
Striving can just wear you out.
Striving can wear you out. Yep. Chasing the wind. Always chasing the wind. Yep, exactly. Good. Yeah, you can't have contentment. Jenny, do you want to share? I overheard you describing a conversation you had. Do you want to share that, or do you want me to recap what I had? Just the fact of receive today as a gift. Don't worry about the storms of tomorrow.
Well, you probably heard it. I talk loud enough.
So Jenny was talking with a lady, I believe, at a gas station, and it was just a beautiful day, and Jenny was just commenting on how wonderful a day it was, and it sounds like the lady just, yeah, but there's supposed to be storms next week, and so she's neglecting receiving the gift of today because she's only worried about tomorrow. I wish I could remember it. I think C.S. Lewis has, in his Space Trilogy series, it's kind of a strange trilogy, but anyway, the second book, Paralandra, there's it's kind of like, this sounds weird, but it's kind of like Adam and Eve, but if like they're aliens. So I know it sounds weird, but it's still a good book. But anyway, he has some line about like this Eve figure. I think it's like she's eating a piece of fruit in the garden, and basically talking about like you have to just enjoy that fruit instead of always thinking about the next piece of fruit, or, oh, I wish I had a different gift. You basically negate and cancel out the gift in front of you if you're only always thinking about the next thing. And I think that's just so true. So that's something that Jameson hits on is being present, in enjoying what God has given you right in front of you. So I went to college up at Bethlehem Baptist, and I was walking home from school one day, and John Piper was walking home too, so I was able to catch up with him, and I had a conversation with him, and I was just like, what are you talking about? What are you thinking about? Because he said he was praying or he was meditating, and he was just saying, I was just thinking about how you have to savor the moment. He's like, I could get home, and my wife Noelle, she might be in a bad mood, or maybe you get some email that is very critical, but savoring the moment, savoring what God has given you right in front of you. And I think that's one of the ways. Receiving the gift and gratitude. I think gratitude is a huge aspect too, because it orients. You don't just terminate on the gift itself, but it does direct you back to worship, right? A cold glass of water after you've been pushing a lawnmower in the yard on a hot day, receiving that with thanksgiving, like that. That's really satisfying, and that's just a simple cold glass of water, and receiving it as a gift of God, praising the Lord for just the thirst-quenching, satisfying drink of cold water. That's one of the ways that we can receive life as a gift. So, And then these were just a couple quotes from the book that I liked. He says, to enjoy any worldly good properly, you must not try to enjoy it ultimately. To rejoice rightly in any earthly pleasure, you must respect its limits. I like that, respect its limits. To delight in any finite good, you must not deify it. And then he says, you can enjoy created goods most when you enjoy God infinitely more. You can love limited goods safely when you love the unlimited one supremely. You can only enjoy fleeting blessings as fully as you should when you seek fullness in the only unfleeting one. So just that idea of keeping things in their proper place, keeping the proper perspective. You don't want to go into the ditch that, it's all absurdity, it's all vanity, nothing, you're just Eeyore, like everything's just terrible. You don't want to go into that ditch. But you also don't want to try to find, this is it, this is going to make me happy, I'm putting all of my stock into this one thing that will satisfy me. You have to realize its limits, right? It's not going to fully satisfy you. Only God will. But we have a relationship with God. He gives us good gifts. It's okay to enjoy. We don't want to be Gnostics where we think we can't enjoy anything in this world, or Plato said the body is the prison that the soul is in. They had a very negative view of the world. But God made creation good, so we have to receive those good gifts from him, and we can enjoy those things. So let's go ahead and wrap up there and get ready for worship. And thanks, guys.